Hello and welcome to this week's Association Transformation. Hi, I'm doing the introduction this week.
That's
Hi,
great. That is
hey,
great.
thank you so much. Hi, how are you? This is Andrew Chamberlain, Elevated, and of course I'm talking to my partner in crime. I feel like I'm just doing the script that you do every week.
Well, it's a pretty good one, but you sound good.
Elisa,
People
how
love
you
your
doing?
voice.
How you
People love
doing?
your voice. We hear it.
You're
I'm
very
good.
kind. They
I'm
do,
good.
they do.
Not what you say. They just love the voice.
Yeah, no, I know. They don't listen to a word I say. They just love how I say it. Absolutely. How are you this
Exactly.
week?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to have a guest. It's been the two of us for a little while, so I'm excited about the break. I know we had Beth Z, but I'm excited for another strong female leader to join us and break up the monotony of your and my chit chat. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is my great pleasure to introduce this week's guest, who is Ellen Daniels. Hi, Ellen. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. Ellen is the chief executive of the British Compressed Gases Association.
Oh,
Yay! So, I'm delighted because Ellen's been talking to me for a long time saying, how come everyone else you know has been on the podcast, but I haven't? And so I thought we should invite her. So I'm really, really pleased that you're with
perfect.
us today.
This is
Thank you.
perfect.
Careful what you wish for.
So Ellen, if you're here, you've made it, whether you'll end up regretting this or not, who knows? But you're here. What is your superpower? I mean, you're with a scientific association. You are the top job. You're the boss. What's your superpower in this space? What do you want to share with the association transformation family?
Firstly, that my superpower is not science. I make that very clear to
It's not
everyone.
gas.
No, it's not compressed gas. No, it's not compressed gas.
She hastens to add, it's not compressed gas.
Yeah, not compressed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All
No, I
right.
suppose, well, I would say my superpower could be leadership, but my background is actually in public affairs and lobbying, which was how I ended up being chief exec of a trade association. I started off as a lobbyist. I did politics at university. I wanted to work in politics without actually working in politics, if that makes sense. And then, like everyone who works with trade associations, I just fell into trade associations and membership. And then fast forward through various public affairs jobs in trade associations, and I found myself here in February 2020, which was a fantastic time to join the trade association that represents medical oxygen manufacturers, as you can imagine.
Brilliant. I
Two
think you're doing
industries
your.
that
Sorry, Elise. Sorry, I was going to say, I think you're doing yourself a slight disservice here, just saying, oh, and then I just rocked up in front. Recently, Ellen was listed, UK's Trade Association Forum listed the Women in Trade Associations Power List
oh,
2025, and Ellen is named in that list. And I think it's overdue to say the least. That this list is published in the first place. I think it's long overdue, and it's fantastic that Ellen's there. Because also, Ellen, how old were you when you became a chief executive of the Trade Association back in February
are you allowed to
2020?
ask that? Are you
Yeah, I
allowed to
am.
ask?
For the purpose of this
It's
conversation,
okay.
I am.
It's
Okay, okay, just checking.
Yeah. No, no,
Go
no,
on.
it's fine. I'm very proud of this. I was 29 when I was made a chief exec.
Big up.
Very
Big
nice.
up. There you
Thank
go.
you.
So
Very nice.
we're a true 30 under 30 makes it into the chief executives before you're 30 and you're listed. For me, that is such when I work with Ellen and when we're together, I think it's such a statement of strength in the trade association sector that the BCGA made a commitment to you and you made a commitment to them. I think it's fantastic. I think the work you're doing with those guys is incredible. So for me, when you said you want to come on and talk about leadership, I think that's just an understatement. That's just me, but yeah.
Respect this so much more because it is a scientific driven membership. And I know I've come to realize that the more letters my members have after their names, the harder it may be to establish my own credibility as an association professional or a governance
Mm-hmm.
professional. So I think this accomplishment may even be less appreciated than it really should be for you, Ellen, because having worked with
I
some of
think
these
so.
organizations, I know how I know how
Yeah.
difficult some
Mm-hmm.
of those audiences can be because they're so accomplished. And they don't necessarily see individuals like yourself at the lab or at the board table or whatever it may be.
And I completely agree. And thank you, by the way. You're both very, very kind. And I think part of the not being technical is such a challenge that I really, really thrive with. I really love trying to understand all this complex scientific stuff that's going on. And again, I think that's part of kind of one of the qualities of leadership is being able just to pick out and just trying to understand and to be able to kind of communicate back, whether you're talking to politicians, other stakeholders, even children, to be honest, sort of inspiring kids and getting younger people into the industry is something I'm really passionate about. And if you can just understand or relate something to them, take this complex idea and boil it down to something that's everyday, I find it's really exhilarating. It's such a challenge. And I will give one very quick example that I love. And I had no idea until I worked in this industry, but there are chips in mobile phones that are treated with compressed gases. And that is part of the reason they work as part of the circuits in a mobile phone. So again, that's just one example of an everyday aspect of compressed gas.
Are you telling me you didn't know that,
Should
Lise?
we thank you?
Come
I
on,
thank you.
Lise. You tell me you didn't know that. God, everybody knows that, don't
I didn't truly
they?
but I love that you are making it human. I love that you're learning from your members. And I wonder now that you've survived, you're 5 years into this role, you're tested, you're a veteran. I know that you're only still in your now mid 30s, but where is your focus now? Is it with your staff and their leadership skills? And is it with your board? Where are you focusing your leadership superpower these days?
Um, I think probably I say across the board, but both with the board and with staff. We are a very small association, but in the last 2.5 years, we have we will have over doubled our staff size. So we were 2 people 2.5 years ago. By this summer, we'll be 5,
Okay.
which is it's fantastic and it's a testament to the industry. But also that presents a lot of challenges because having a team of 4 employees is really different from having a team of one. Need to be able to delegate more. I need to empower them. And I think that is a key part of leadership, being able to empower other people so they can take ownership of their roles, of their jobs. Likewise, with the board, again, as an organization, because we are growing, the role of the board is growing and evolving to fit this and to meet with the needs of the industry and the association.
Yeah. Well, and the leadership is really, it's what you hold yourself to, how you delegate, how you let things go, how you bring the best out of people. What have you learned about yourself and your own leadership abilities or shortcomings over these first 5 years?
Um, I was going to say, now this will sound kind of bad, but making, I'll say, informed decisions. I was going to say quick decisions. It's not quick, but also not delaying decisions. I think
Yeah.
5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, before COVID, actually, I think that I might have, and maybe even the world, made decisions slowly, dilly-dallied, asked lots and lots of questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question, but sometimes you can ask too many questions.
Come
Yeah.
on. There
Well,
are.
to be fair, there are stupid questions. There are stupid questions. There are. And then I think when you get a crisis in particular, it shows that you can make quick decisions, but they can be well informed. And I think that actually making decisions also gives you confidence, and it gave me confidence as well. Take something like COVID, or if you're lobbying on some regulation, you need to sometimes make really quick decisions. You need to pick your messages, who you're speaking to. And I think also it's all this experience, which is what makes you a leader as well. It's also accepting your mistakes and learning from your mistakes and communicating about your mistakes.
Do you
Andrew,
think? Yeah, well, I was going to say, do you think? Oh, speaking of mistakes, that sounded like speaking of mistakes. Andrew,
Great
would you like to
transition,
say?
Andrew.
Yeah, I love that. Like, good segue there. Speaking of mistakes, do you think, because so you've been in trade associations now 10 plus years, you were elevated, quite quickly. You got to the chief executive role. How have you perceived the change in leadership culture over the last decade? How has it evolved? Has it evolved? Or do you still think, or no, no, sorry, do you think that it's still got some way to go before we actually see, what's the word? A modern sort of embracing of leadership in the sector?
I mean, leadership culture in trade associations.
Yes, yes, in trade associations, yeah.
I think they've become more, well, I think they've become more flexible. I do think they have moved on. When I say flexible, I mean just in terms of even just working from home. 10, 15 years ago, working
Mm-hmm.
from home seemed like quite a novelty. Um, I think that networking is a massive, massive part of leadership and learning. I mean, I have so learned the value of networking and speaking to others in equivalent positions since becoming a CEO. Sometimes being a CEO can be a really lonely place. And I think 10, 15 years ago, there weren't as many networks there for trade
Mm-hmm.
association CEOs. I'm just thinking of the ones I'm involved with, like the Trade Association Forum in the UK, which is basically the trade association for trade associations. I think they did exist 10 years ago, but maybe not 15 years ago. I think just communicating more as leaders. I think we are moving towards a more culture of open or more open culture of leadership. So, like I say,
Okay.
talking about our shortcomings, I think again, people didn't do it as much 10 years ago, whereas now, or maybe it's just me, I'm quite happy to stick my hand up and say, I did something wrong. I learned from it, but I do still think there is a way to go in the sector.
Yeah.
Well, and what you mentioned about learning from others and learning from your mistakes. For me, one of the three-legged stools of leadership is humility,
Yeah.
and so I love that openness. We don't always see that in some of our longer tenured leaders who may no longer be humble, who've reached whatever pinnacle that they believe they were always intended to ascend to. But I love that openness that you demonstrate. How do you, now that your staff is growing, how do you instill a leadership culture at your staff level? You mentioned delegation, but within a small staff,
Mm.
those staff then don't have anyone to delegate to. So how are you teaching them to be leaders when they are when they lead a department of one?
I think making sure just having those core values. So I talk about asking questions. I ask a lot of questions of my staff, and possibly to the point where it might get a little bit irritating. But for me, it is just checking in, um, especially when you work remotely. I mean, I've been guilty of it as well. Someone will say, "How are you doing? Is your workload okay?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, it's fine." Where actually I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I've got 5 pages of a to-do list. I don't want to seem weak or like I can't prioritize or I can't do this stuff." But that's not true. Just have a lot of things to do. We all have a lot of things to do. So I think being more open, I will say, do you have too many things to do? Which obviously people normally say yes, which is fine. But that's why I'm there. I see it as my role to help them to do that. And and also just to be open. Again, I say, well, look, I've got loads of things to do as well. I need help prioritizing sometimes. And also having this culture of it being like 360 feedback, 365 feedback, 360
No,
feedback.
360, 360. It is
360.
360. Yeah.
Not every day.
365 feedback is just going,
Yeah.
you're just going in a complete loop constantly.
Never stopping.
That's feedback every day. We just want the full range.
They can give feedback every day. It's fine. But I mean, where I used to work, we would have annual appraisals and we used to do 360 feedback on all the staff and on our boss as well, which I actually really liked. And I thought that was a really good idea. Scary for him having like 12 pieces of feedback. But, again, it helped foster that kind of culture of constant feedback, of sort of saying, you're not perfect, I'm not perfect, but just making sure that everyone's comfortable. And like you said, Elisa, making sure there's humility. As the leader, it doesn't mean you're untouchable or you can't be criticized, and I think making sure that they know that you're on their side as well. God, I sound like an HR professional, but genuinely.
Now that you're CEO, you know how many hats that really means you're wearing.
To all the HR professionals listening, that's not a bad thing, by the way.
No, we love our big hugs to HR world right now.
I come from a family of HR professionals, so I say.
All right.
I say that with
so what
respect.
you really mean is, oh God, I sound like my mother. That's what you really wanted to say, but
or my father.
Oh goodness. I want to flip back. Oh, go ahead, Andrew.
No, you go. Go on, go for it.
I mentioned something about long tenured leaders maybe having blind spots or not being humble. And I want to correct that. That's not fair. I think there are, what do we say? Leaders in,
oh my God, you can't say that. Oh, I have to bleep that one out.
Do you beep it?
I can't.
Oh my God.
Oh, I guess I'm sorry. I don't know the language.
Do you beep things out?
Yeah, no.
We are going to learn how to bleep things.
Oh, when we explained to you what it meant, I thought that was enough for you not to then go say it.
I just thought maybe for the international audience, we could maybe use different language since that's not appropriate.
You're right.
To talk about what happens when you come in contact with, whether it's your boss or a long tenured leader or a new leader or whatever the case might be, and they quickly demonstrate themselves to be bad.
Good recovery there. I'll just bleep that in as well.
Thank
I'm
you.
just going to bleep that in as well.
Sorry about that. To my mom, to my grandmother, all the people.
I love it. I love it. What was the question? I missed that. Sorry, I missed that.
What do you do? I mean, Ellen's has people, whether it's at the Capitol, whether it's at the scientific table, whether it's at the board table. You and I come across leaders of all quality, shapes, sizes, ages, otherwise. How do you handle in this new leadership culture? How do you handle a less than leader?
I think keep your cool, honestly. Genuinely keeping your cool, because if you lose it, and I am very guilty of sometimes nearly losing it, then but that will make the situation worse. It also gives that person more fuel to the fire. And I think also just being confident in yourself, staying calm, and knowing that you're there for a reason, and that the problem is with that person, as we can see, not to get political. I can think of a few leaders who lack humility and who might lose their tempers.
Are you talking about me? Are you talking about me? Or is it Elisa you're talking about?
Both of you.
Yeah. I mean, we get it. We're living it.
I think being confident in your abilities is half the battle with these people. It's honestly what I've learned over time. Like when I started this role, like obviously I was less confident. It was a relatively new industry, but over time and with experience, and again, I think that's key, with every horrible interaction you have with one of those types of leaders, as horrible as they are at the time, you get through them and you bank it as experience, and it does get easier. You should not have to, sorry, I sound like I'm on my soapbox now. You shouldn't have to deal with people like that. But honestly, once you do deal with it, you see a pattern, and you grow more confident in yourself, you're more confident in your arguments, and you just accept, though, there are some people, unfortunately, in leadership roles who will behave like that, and there's nothing you can do. And I think also accepting that there's nothing you can do is an excellent part of leadership. I mean, we talk about making decisions all the time. I talked about making decisions earlier. And sometimes when you make a decision to not do something, or a decision to accept someone or something as they are, that's just as valid as doing something or shouting back.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's nice the way you differentiate between somebody in a leadership role isn't necessarily a leader. They're occupying a
Oh,
position.
title. It's title
Yeah,
is
it's a
one
title.
thing
Yeah,
from
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. They become, yeah, and I think being able to, as you say, because also, I mean, I recognize what you're saying. When I was in the role, I often really struggled, really grappled to keep my temper, and to keep and to retain perspective on the situation. I think that's an incredibly useful sort of tip and advice. And you're right, it comes with it comes with experience, of course it does. But I think being able to sort of differentiate it actually and to accept. I'm not sure I fully agree that you can't do something to change it. I think you're always in a position to do something to change it. I think.
Oh no, I mean to change the person though. Like I
Oh,
think if
not
you
the
accept you will
person.
never
No, no,
change a
that's
person
not your
or
job to do that. No, of course not.
oh no,
Of
no.
course not. No, it's
And
not your job to change the person. No.
and I think that's maybe the more modern, realistic take on what a leader is. You're not there to correct. You're not there necessarily to even teach everyone the right way. Everyone
Yes.
has the
Mm-hmm.
right way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, again, when we talk about humility or leadership arrogance,
Mm.
I want to be able to say, you're you, that's your way. I'm not going to do it that way, but
Yeah.
I'm going to control what I can control, and focus on what's important, which may or may not be the correction of a behavior or you know the feedback given to someone who will never take it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on
Mm-hmm.
that greater impact.
Yeah, and there's different types of leader as well. And I think, when I was aware before this role, and I'd been on different leadership training courses, and there's the authoritarian leader, and there's all different sorts. And I don't think you necessarily have to stick yourself or categorize yourself as a certain type of leader, but everyone has their individual leadership style. And I think, again, part of the humility piece is being aware of that, aware of what your triggers are as well as a leader. Is it if someone is one day late, one week late, are you not with the task? Does that not bother you? Is it if someone raises their voice? And I think just being so aware of yourself as a person as well is what makes yourself a leader. And I didn't really marry up the two, my personality as Ellen, but also my leadership style. But as you become more self-aware, which again I think comes with age, they are very, very linked. I mean, I always thought of, I'm going into a job, this is my job, I then go home. But actually, when you're a leader, your personality is a big part of that, which
Yeah.
sounds a bit
Yeah.
ridiculous when I say it. But I think when you're actually in a leadership position, you do realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That's
we talk a lot, when Elisa and I talk about when we have chats about what we do for a living. It's being consultants, you're self-employed, you're out there doing your own gig. It's a lifestyle choice. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle choice. But actually, I think the same principle can be applied to the role of the chief executive because you don't reach that position and ever really get to switch off. You can't. And I don't believe chief executives who say, oh, yeah, I turn the email off on a Friday and I don't think about it till a Monday morning. If you are, then that tells me that you're not really. I don't know. It says, I'm not saying you should be working 24/7. I'm not saying you should be a workaholic. I'm not saying you should be throwing all and everything into it because I've seen that happen and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You burn yourself out. But I think you're absolutely right. You and your personality and your value system and your perspectives and your experiences absolutely mold your success or otherwise in the role. I absolutely think that's absolutely fundamental.
think what we're saying with a lot of different characteristics and personality traits being identified. I think what we're talking about is balance
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and knowing when knowing when not to your point, Ellen, when to shift into a higher gear, when to let things go, when to be the workaholic, when to raise your voice, when not to. And it's a balance of experience and self-awareness and the ability to accept feedback and adapt. So I don't know, we talked about, have we reached that modern leadership place? And I almost hope that there isn't ever there isn't ever a destination that we've reached. It's a continued evolution, because the circumstances that we're in, whether it's our associations, whether it's our members' industries, whether it's where we are in our lives, are always changing, and our need to adapt to that change will never end.
Absolutely,
This
100%,
isn't like a
100%. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
mountain that we're trying to get to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely
Yeah.
agree.
But okay, so we won't use the other words. We'll just talk about leadership as a sliding scale and an ongoing goal. When you were named the on TAF's Powerlist, did they ask you about your leadership? Was that part of their criteria? Is that something that trade associations are taking more seriously as it relates to the development of their CEOs?
I can't actually remember what was on the application because someone else filled it. Someone else kindly put me forward, but I think it asked several questions about, yeah, examples of successes relating to leadership and various leadership qualities. And yeah, I think there are. I mean, like I say, I think we've come on so much in the last 10 years. I mean, yeah, there's the power list, but there are so many other different association and membership companies and awards ceremonies, and they all offer leadership awards. I do think it's something that's being taken more seriously. I mean, and also just the membership sector, it offers so many opportunities for leadership as well, which, especially for younger people. I mean, I was made a head of a department when I was 25, 26.
Oh, look at this. I'll
I
just
think,
throw that in there. I'll just throw that in there.
well, given we're talking about my age so much,
She gets
but I
to.
just but I just think there's so many more opportunities in the membership sector for leadership earlier on than there might be otherwise. I remember when I worked for a public affairs agency. That was my first kind of permanent main job after university. And one of my clients was a trade association, and I presented to their board. And at the time, it was very kind of, oh, I just need to put together this presentation, give it, and that was fine. Obviously, my manager was there. And then I'd done that for a couple of years, and then I got a new job within a trade association. They said, "Oh, do you know about boards?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I used to present to a board all the time in my previous role." And they were like, "Oh, good, wow." And to me, they were going, "Oh, I'm so glad you've got board experience." But honestly, I was like, oh, I was just presenting, And I think some people presenting to a board is this great big thing, which, by the way, in my view, like it was great exposure for me, and I wouldn't have had that if I had not worked with trade associations before. So, for over 10 years, I've been familiar with the concept of a board, with presenting to a board, with that structure. Again, I wouldn't have had those opportunities if I had not worked with trade associations and got the exposure I did to those sorts of leaders early on as well.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Andrew. I think when you come from that lobbying position and the government affairs side, I think you're given a little more credit, well deserved, because you're in some of those difficult positions, talking with elected officials and things that other staff may not have the opportunity or exposure to. So I think that kind of fast tracks you maybe a little bit for those roles of those higher expectations of that role.
Definitely. And I think because the agency I worked with, they were a startup as well. So they were, again, a really small company, quite new. So I got to go to meetings with MPs and ministers and even secretaries of state very early on. And don't get me wrong, it was a fantastic opportunity, and I was sort of in awe. But again, it got me in front of these very, very senior people very quickly. Again, regardless of what you think of politicians, these are leaders. They are leaders of our country. So whether or not I admired them or didn't admire them, again, I could sort of stand back and observe and think, okay, this person is a leader, or not, maybe.
So we're still here fairly early in the calendar year, and you've reached some of these pinnacles within the association world and within trade associations. So for you, what's next? What's your personal goal for your own leadership development in a year like this after being honored and recognized? Like, what's next?
Well, like I said, we're growing our staff, which is a great opportunity. I've managed a couple of people, but this is really a great opportunity to have a diverse set of staff that look at technical things, at admin, at the organization, and just growing the organization in general. And because I'll have 4 people to delegate to, it means I can kind of step back and really get into the chief exec role. Every day is different. And that's what I love about working with trade associations. But I am so excited to get into the kind of business side of things, if that makes any sense.
No, completely it does. Completely does. I mean, that's
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. I love it when leaders say, when I get to have my team, when I get to hand some stuff off, then you're going to really get to see what I'm capable of, and I'm excited to check back in.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ellen, for joining us this week. I'm really pleased that you were able to join us. And I dare say, to echo what Elisa says, I think it'll be fascinating to watch what happens for you and the team at the BCGA over the next, 12, 18, 24 months. I suspect we'll be inviting you back on when you're, in your fifth chief executive role before your 40th birthday or whatever it is. So,
Wow.
I mean that in a good way. I mean that in a good way.
No, but it reminds me I'll be 40, but that's
not for a long time. Oh my God. Do you know what? Sometimes you just can't say right for doing wrong, honestly. Before we go, I want to just, at least before we go, I just want to just, I've been looking again, as is my habit, to see where people are listening to us around the world. And I just want to just do a couple of shout outs, if I may, because there's some incredible places that I think it's amazing. I want to say hello to our listeners in Aurora, Colorado. Do you know that? Have you been there? Aurora, Colorado? Have you been there?
I have not been there, but I like Colorado. I've been to
Yeah,
lots
we know
of
where
other
Colorado is. I'm talking about Aurora, Colorado. And that's Chantilly, Virginia. Do you know that?
Oh yeah, that's the street. Yeah.
Is it just you live not far from Chantilly? That's fantastic.
I may have just given my IP address. That may be me. I may have just spoofed my computer.
Oh my God. Oh, hang on. And I was working in Colorado last week. Maybe that was me.
They're all me.
I also want to say a big shout out to our new listeners, new country this week, actually. We got new listeners in Hungary from Budapest have started listening to us. And so big welcome to the Association Transformation family, to you guys as well. And then finally, I'm just looking at them randomly now. Oh, this is going to put people off. Manchester, Kentucky. You thought I was going to say Manchester, England then, didn't you? Manchester, Kentucky.
No, there's one in New Hampshire, isn't there? Isn't there Manchester in New Hampshire?
Manchester's everywhere, aren't they? The Manchester's everywhere, But these are our new listeners this week, and I just want to say thank you. Oh my goodness me! Hang on a minute. Oh, as I scroll down, I could do a whole pod on this. Come back to me next week on that one, Lisa. I'll let you wrap. Go on.
Don't blow the surprise. We'll all be on waiting with bated breath. So yes, Ellen, you now too are part of the Association Transformation family. Thank you so much for joining us, for bringing us your perspective. We look forward to keeping up on not only your career, but having you back to share this with the audience. And until then, your members and your mission first.